Hey, Paul, you said earlier something about you lived part of your life with one foot in and one foot out. Did you have an experience or a moment in which that changed, that transformation happened for you?
I'm
Or was
pretty
that a
hard.
series of
Yeah,
events?
yeah, I'm pretty hard headed.
No
God,
way.
yeah, it's been a blessing and it's been a curse kind of thing. I don't give up. I keep going. I'm driving, driving, driving. I'm just gonna, but also in other areas where I need to let something go and I don't. So I'll tell you a story that first got my attention where God was real. So I'm out at Yuma and I first get there and I have a couple hundred jumps, so I think I'm an expert pretty much, and I'm not, of course. And we have a night jump, and I'm not allowed to jump with students yet because you have to go through a certain process and training and stuff before you're allowed to do that. And it was an Army command, and the guy, I forget who was teaching up. We're up in a casa, and there's 10 students up there, and he goes, "Hey, I'm going to push these guys out, and you can't jump with the students, but give us about 10 seconds, and then you can jump out and then do whatever you want, and so be it." Cool. So they leave. I'm watching them and see the chem lights go and stuff. It's around midnight, 1 in the morning, and I give myself a little count. I jump out. Cool. I'm floating, going down to earth, and I flip on my back. I look at the stars and the moon and stuff. Turn back over, and they call it throwing out. It's a little pilot chute that you pull out and throw, and nothing was happening. And so I go to check, and I got this chem light that's on my helmet, and it's kind of getting loose, and it's going back and forth. Bang! I can't see anything. This thing's banging me by the face. And so I'm stupid. I should have cut away right away, but I go and I check again. I try to elbow it or whatever, and then I end up cutting away. Well, you have a cypress that's on your reserve that senses speed and altitude. So if it says you're falling through a certain altitude at a certain speed, it's like, oh, you must not have a parachute out. And it's a little explosive device that actually a charge goes off and your um, reserve comes out. So I cut away, and I didn't beat my cypress because it had fired as well when I was cutting away. And when you jump in the desert, everything's quiet. So right when that reserve opened, it's meant to open now. So it's like whack, and you're at terminal velocity. And I heard my D bag, and that's what your parachute is packed into. I heard my D bag right when it opened up, and then I heard a punk, like the D bag hit the ground. So I don't know, probably 800 feet, and that's nothing as far as how far you are from dirt poisoning, right? So I land, and I try to make it back to the shade structure, but I couldn't make it back very far. And I go back there. It's nighttime. I don't know where it's at and stuff. And I go back the next morning, and I get it and everything. President Bush had me jumping in that day. I see Barbara Bush out there by the packing mat, and I recognize some of the Secret Service guys, and I got to talk to her. It was really cool. So there goes my free fall career. I'm an instructor there. I start getting a lot of jumps, 1,000 jumps, 2,000 jumps. I get really good. I end up. I was about normally not 190, 200 pounds. I was always kind of, I was a bodybuilder back then and stuff. And so I would jump the heavier guys. I would not jump the lighter guys. And they were by numbers where you were. And so number one would be, a guy, Bucko 5 soaking wet. And he was a boat guy, but he had all these DVDs. And so I made friends with him because I wanted to copy him. Otherwise, I would have never known the guy. And I mentioned this because we had a fatality that night. And his name was Sean Mustard and my friend Chris Schaefer. So I got in trouble the day prior because I'm always getting in trouble, and I'm hooking it in or something. We had this little styrofoam cup with $1 in it, and so the deal was to try to hit that thing with your foot, and you get really good, And I had hooked it in real hard and came in. I got the $1 and stuff, and well, the sergeant major saw it. He goes, "That's it, you're grounded." I'm like, "Good, I didn't break anyway." So I had to pull dirt, they call it, that night, and I'm watching the guys get out of the airplane, and I'm calling in the radio. Yep, 10 good canopies, blah blah. Go on through the night. Well, I hear a whack kind of thing when guys jump out, and I'm like, wow, that sounded like a hard opening. But at the time, I wouldn't have known that in the ground, but I didn't put it together yet. And I see some kind of chem lights kind of go like that, and don't think much of it because I still have 10 or 12 good canopies, whatever it was. And students are landing, they're calling in, I'm checking them off and stuff. It's nighttime. And I see an instructor canopy that's going downwind. There's no wind, but he's going downwind.
Yeah.
I figure he's probably chasing a student or something. And so all the students, there's nobody left in the air. They're still checking in. I tell one of the instructors, "Hey, can you take over for me? I'm going to go on the four-wheeler and go get one of the instructors so you don't have to walk back. He's like, cool. So I go out there, and now I'm out there, and there's nothing. And you get that weird sense kind of thing. And I mean, it's very quiet, and I'm driving around, and I turn the machine off in case, he's hurt or something. I can hear him, cry out for help or something, and nothing. So I go around, I'm looking for this guy, and then I see a shadow of the canopy that's completely downwind. And I just finished EMT school and stuff. And I get off the four-wheeler, I run up there, and he's probably 500-600 meters from the shade structure. So you can't see him. It's a desert with scrub brush and stuff. And it's my friend Chris. And I roll him over, and his face is completely concave, busted up. I mean, it was just a mush. And right away, it was like, oh, I don't want to put mouth on him. I kind of laughed myself a little bit, I'm like, good grief, that's the first thing that came to my mind. But he was dead. He was obviously dead. And so then I called back, and you don't want to say that on the radio. I said, hey, I need a corpsman up here. Give me an 18 Delta. And so they come running up, and they know what the deal is. And they said, hey, we're missing a student also. I'm like, what? And so we had good canopies, but what happened was, we think what happened, you can tell by the blood spray on the canopy and stuff, they hit in midair. One was maybe pulling his parachute out, started slowing down. The other one went through it. Hard to say what happened, but one hit the other, knocked it so hard, maybe the pins came out or whatever. So they were both dead under canopy, full canopy, brakes stowed, and just kind of, going into the ground. So found Sean. Sean was about 2 miles away because he was lighter, so he had a bigger canopy, and he's going to go farther. And so the next day, so I started drinking kind of thing. And the sergeant major comes up to me and says, hey, we still got a day of, we still have the night jumps. We can graduate these guys. Should we wait? Well, he's asking me. And I said, well, I think we should get these guys in the air right now. And I didn't want to go in the air. I was like, I just wanted to break, but no, and the right call was to go up there now. He goes, yeah, you're right. We need to get up there. So we got the students up that night. We got them all there. We had about 10 or 20 of them just quit. I mean, double fatality, right? They just quit. And there was a new instructor there, my friend Jeff, and he was new there, and he looked kind of freaked out about it, and I was freaked out. I just wasn't saying anything. And I said, hey, want me to take your stick up for you? And I already finished my I jumped my guys. I'm like, yes, I cheated death again. Like, I don't have to jump tonight. I'm good. And he goes, yeah, if you could take my stick up. And I'm like, oh, I was thinking to myself, yeah, no problem. So I took his stick up and came down and stuff. And I went to Mexico, and I stayed there for like 2 or 3 days. And I was just drinking, and I wasn't really drunk. It was weird. I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't eating. I was just drinking. And a Marine comes to my house, and one of my friends, and he's like, hey man, you got to get to work, and blah blah. Like, let's get you right. And so I go to work, and there's a psychologist there, and some lady, and she's like, okay. I'm like, oh, good grief, this is all we need, right? I mean, and it wasn't going over well. And so the widow, Chris's wife, came up to me and said, hey, Paul, Chris had his wedding ring on, but it wasn't on his body. I said, hey, look, we take our jewelry off when we jump, because if I'm hanging on a ramp or a door, if I'm flying video or something, if you have a ring, it can get caught and you can lose a finger. So I said, wear jewelry. And she goes, well, he always wore his ring. And I said, well, okay, we'll take a look. And so I got the boys together. I was kind of a ringleader wherever I went, right? It was however that works.
Got the boys together.
Yeah. And I said, okay, we spread about 100 feet apart, and we're on the desert floor, and there's scrub brush and stuff and no trees, but you can't see past 20 or 30 feet as far as, looking out there. And I said, let's just walk like for a mile. And I'll realize that happened up at altitude. I'm not sure, we're guessing 4,000 feet or maybe, 6,000, whatever it was they were pulling at. And they went in different directions. And that ring, if that's where it came off because of the violent impact, who knows where it is? It'll never be found, right?
Yeah.
I have a Tupperware container of wine I'm drinking. Like I said, I've been drinking for a few days. So I'm drinking on the job kind of thing, and walking down the desert. And we've been out there about an hour. And I'm walking. I'm like, okay, this is about enough of this. And something tells me to look down to my right. And in a half buried scrub brush was his wedding ring, halfway buried. And it wasn't shiny like a gold. It was gold. It wasn't like glaring at me. And
Mhm.
I've told the story 2 or 3 times before, and I would cry. I don't now. I thank goodness. It just for whatever reason it broke me, and I think because it God became real to me at that moment. Like, hey, you need to get your
Mhm.
act together. You know,
Mhm.
you're still here. There's things that need to be done. And
Mhm.
found his ring and was able to give it to the widow. And that wouldn't be the first time that that's happened to me. Later on in life, I was in Hawaii. That's where I'm from. Me and my wife were on vacation out there because we live in the mainland now. And I'm walking along the beach down at Waianae Rest Camp, and it looked like a bottle cap that was as the waves come up kind of thing. It's like an inch of water as it comes up and goes back down. It looks like there's a bottle cap or something in the sand. So I reached down, pick it up, and it was a ring. And it looked silver, kind of like costume jewelry. And I'm like,
Mhm.
I'll just take that with me, and then I'll see what it is later on. So I go back to the cabin in the afternoon. I actually get my glasses and look at it, and it has like a P and an L or something, and it has a Bible verse. And I'm like, So I look it up. Well, it's platinum, right? And
Mm.
unbeknownst to me, platinum's expensive. And this was a huge, like it was a big wedding ring. And so I go to the front desk. I say, hey, we went home. That's right. So I go home to Maui, and that's when I looked all this stuff up. It was a couple days later, and I realized what I had. I call up the Waianae Rest Camp. I said, hey, I found this wedding ring, platinum. She goes, oh, there was a guy who lost it out here 6 months ago. He was a pastor. He was baptizing people in waist deep water when he lost it.
Oh,
And I was able to contact him. Now, this is 6 months, and now it's washed up on the shore. And it
yeah.
happens where, and so once again, I don't know what it is with me and wedding rings. You know,